So here we are for another Yuma Clinical Trials podcast. We're here with the community on site with Sunflower Plumbing, about to actually do some work. We do all kinds of clinical trials: obesity, psoriasis, derm, psych, bipolar depression, COPD. Katie, what's the phone number? She's our lead coordinator.
Give me a call at 760-618-6184 for any questions about any of our new upcoming studies.
And we're here working with Jaime from Sunflower Plumbing today on site.
My name is Jaime Lucio, owner of Sunflower Plumbing. We serve the Yuma area, including Welton, all the way out to San Luis, and our number is 928-316-6555.
There we go, let's get to work.
This is our gonna be our support for the water heater. When that water heater gets full, you don't want to let it sit directly on the dirt because it can start to settle, so we just need to put something underneath it that'll keep it from sinking down into the ground.
Is this a do-it-yourself job? I mean, ideally they should call you, but can someone do this themselves?
You could. I mean, I try to think of like, maybe in this situation, maybe not, because we're trying to connect that electrical, or you probably want to not smash your toes with a slab or something. Let's put this for first. Yeah. Drop it in. But it could be, I mean, to a certain extent, if it was like a straight swap, I'd be okay with saying that it's good for DIY. But
okay, can they learn from this video?
Absolutely. Yeah,
there you guys go, free stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
You should still call Jaime and don't electrocute yourself.
Don't electrocute yourself. I even take that risk myself.
So Jaime, what are we doing here, man?
So for starters, we're installing a water heater, an electric water heater. This is a studio here that's only got a single bathroom and a kitchen, so it's not going to need much. We're actually installing a 50-gallon electric water heater right here on the exterior. So I'll just kind of walk you through every step and see how we can get this all worked out, because it is a blank slate completely.
Do you have to be aware of like watts and stuff, like what you're buying versus what are volts?
Not so much. I wouldn't think. I mean, I'm no electrician, right? So yeah. I mean, as far as I understand, in residential applications, it's all pretty standard as far as the wattage goes. Really, the main difference with some of the wattage measurements is going to be the size of the unit and kind of what you're heating up for and how quick you're trying to heat it up. Okay. Different things like that, little details that you're trying to do. But in most residential applications, it's all pretty much the same stuff.
Okay.
Especially with electric water heaters, it's kind of like the same thing they've been using for a long time.
Okay.
So I'm gonna start by unboxing the water heater, and then we'll get everything positioned and start cutting pipe and everything.
Okay.
All right. I got a little way you can learn how to cut these water heater boxes too, to make it a little bit easier. I used to do installs for Lowe's all day.
Oh, serious?
So I used to.
So you used to work for Lowe's and then got into this for yourself?
Well, it was actually like a subcontracted thing when I was an employee that they used to have with Lowe's or some of the other big box stores.
Okay.
And so you get used to having to unbox some of these, quite a bit of these.
That's very efficient.
And then it fits in your truck.
That is awesome.
When you can fit it in there with limited space,
that's
get a lot more done.
Unboxing.
There you go. So this is your temperature and pressure relief. It's a safety if you ever have too much pressure build up in the water heater, or by like the temperature exceeding a certain amount, this will relieve it. And usually you'll run one of these to the exterior of the home. This one's already sitting outside, so we'll just be having it run to the ground.
Does that come with it, or you have to buy this?
No, this comes with it in the box. Yeah. And there's usually, it has a placement on it. This one's going to be on top. So I got to put some sealant on here real quick.
And how'd you get into this type of work for yourself?
For myself, or like all together, or just for myself?
Well, for yourself, but then how did you get into plumbing?
Like, is there school, training, things like that?
So I come from a time where you could go from like a driver, right, to an apprentice. That's how I did it. I went from being a driver. Actually, I used to work doing like maintenance on vehicles, and I got kind of tired of that. Mm-hmm. And so I got hired on to this plumbing company that was doing new construction plumbing, a lot of new construction, and then they would do a lot of their own warranty. They would, like, when they would build the house, they give you a 1-year warranty on it, so whenever they have an issue with that, then they'd have their own internal plumbers. So I basically became a driver for one of the guys that wasn't able to get his license, but he was a good plumber, so they made sure he had work. So as I was a driver, I started off at the time it was like $9 an hour or something. As I started off as a driver, eventually it turned into an apprenticeship, just because of the initiative. You know, if you just get out there and start pushing your efforts, people will start to let you do more of their work, especially with those guys. I would have trenches. I had just gotten out of high school, so I was like, I had all this energy to let me jump in there and dig that trench out for you. Same thing for like crawling in attics and stuff like that. It's a lot of physical work. So
was it here in Yuma? Or?
No, this started out in Phoenix.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this was a while ago in Phoenix.
When did you move out here?
I've been in Yuma a little over 2 years now. I thought it was 3 years, but it's actually only been 2.5 years. April, I think, was 2 years.
When I came down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people. I mean, I feel like 2020, like so many people changed things in life, and something about Yuma like just attracted a lot of people. It attracted multiple people that I know.
Yeah.
It's been great. There's a lot of opportunity. I think that's a big part of it too. Is you see in the big city that it's a lot faster paced and competitive, and you show up here and it's just maintaining that.
My
level.
wife's family is from here, so we moved here 3 years ago. We were from Orange County, California, and then I always had this theory, because I knew about Yuma for like 20 years, that whatever works in another city could probably work in Yuma, especially if it's not there.
Right.
So clinical trial, that's one of the main reasons why we started here. I kept waiting for someone to do it, and no one did.
A lot of open space, right?
Yeah,
You just got to show up.
Yep. And I think that's the case for a lot of different businesses too.
Yeah, absolutely. Even in a trade like mine, where there's a lot of plumbers, but there are only so many that are licensed and insured.
Yeah.
And so it's still like this specific niche that you can fit into, that there's enough work for everyone.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so we moved here. I moved here a little over 2 years ago, and I started my business in 2020 when everything kind of slowed down and you were kind of limited. At the time, I had just gotten into learning how to get my license, right? Like I had been doing it for about 15 years at that point, and I was just tired. I don't know. I thought it was going to be easier to start your own thing, but it's a different type of hard.
Yeah. So this is your first business?
My first business, yeah. And it's been about 4 years. Well, just maybe 2 weeks ago it was 4 years. We just renewed for our third license renewal.
Congrats. And you've been picking up clients here and there throughout town?
Yeah. It's picked up quite a bit. We have now I have a staff. I mean, we're small, but I got two and a half office people. They're some part-time, and then I have one other plumber, and then I do some of the plumbing myself.
You have a dispatcher?
I got a dispatch. Oh, he's hybrid. He does all kinds of stuff, but he answers the phone, but he does all kinds of stuff. Okay. He helps a lot of our networking, things like that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Katie, learn how to do this, because at the site, when it breaks down, we're going to have Katie do this.
Not.
You guys are carrying the warranty on this one, right? If there's any issues.
Yeah. That's all Daniel.
So yeah, once you get that thread started by hand, you don't want to cross thread it.
So these are universal, or it comes with it, right?
It comes with the unit, yeah. I mean, the sizing of it is pretty much the same thing for all residential water heaters, which is...
Well, so far what you've done, not gonna lie, I could do it.
Yeah.
So far, so good.
Yeah.
So explain what you did with the tape, was it, that you put on there before you put it in?
Yeah.
What does
tape,
that
no?
do?
It's a sealant. So when you're filling in, when you're connecting a thread that's going to have pressurized water on it, you got to add a sealant to fill in every gap so the water doesn't seep out. And so we use Teflon tape to fill in those seals. So that makes it so I can put that on there. Now I can put water in it. Nothing will come out of that thread. So next step is going to be for us to open up this wall. First and foremost, let me get this out of the sun so it's not hot. I didn't test this before, but this is the main shutoff going into the house. So we'll stop all the water that's going in. We're assuming this is feeding the hot water, which we'll determine right now in a second. Ooh, actually, which one is the hot? We're hoping it's this one. I always like to set my rag out so that I can, because I'm going to use this later once we start soldering. I gotta not be wasteful with it. There wasn't much, but I need a damp rag when I solder. I gotta cool it down. So we will turn that off. We'll leave that open. So now we got this for later when we're cooling down the solder. And then the next step would be to clean off where we're going to cut. And the reason for this is when we solder, it has to have clean copper to be able to get the solder to adhere. Otherwise, it'll just bounce off of the outside of it.
So what are you using to clear, like what is that piece of fabric that you're using, or material? I
don't know what it's called exactly, but I don't remember what it's called. It's just like an open mesh.
Okay.
It's not quite a sanding cloth. It's open mesh so that the what you're scraping off doesn't get just gunked up in there. Because like a sand cloth, if you try to use like an actual sandpaper, it'll get filled up.
Okay.
And then you won't be. It'll be useless after like a few of these. So this lets it fall out so that you can continue to kind of scrape off the outer layer.
Gotcha.
When they manufacture this piping, they add like a cover to it so that it keeps from corroding when they're transporting it. And so you gotta sand it off so that you can work with it. So again, I'm hoping that this is the hot side. I gotta assume because the cold is over there, and I'm assuming it'll go directly in. Without a shutoff valve, I can't isolate. So we're gonna put a shutoff valve to start, and then we can see what it's not feeding inside and determine whether it's hot or not. These little preparation things make all the difference in whether this is gonna work or not. These are pipe cutters. You guys ever use pipe cutters like these?
Nope.
So this will cut the round of the pipe exactly where you want it with this blade here, and all it does is jump in there. You're just gonna stand it there. There's a directional. They create like a pressure by pulling it this way. So as you it's not gonna fit.
Has to go around?
Yeah, it has to go all the way around, but we can work around that if that doesn't work.
Daniel, we won't be able to do it, man. Right into issues.
It's especially no longer a DIY.
It's no longer DIY.
DIY. As soon as you can't turn it, then no, I'm just kidding. It's as we're going, we're tightening it, and you can see how it's making that crease there.
Yep.
So we're just gonna work it back and forth since we can't clear
I'll
it.
just work it back.
Yeah, and it should be enough for us to at least break it. So you got to go all the way to the wall, and then all the way back to the wall, and then and then as you're doing that, it's already creating that groove. So now you're gonna stop for a sec, come back up. So you're gonna twist this because that's actually what creates that tension there. And then it's gonna, not too much though, because if you do it too much, it'll bend the pipe and it won't let you cut it.
Oh, I see.
So you're starting to get a cut there.
Cool. I found a second calling. This is actually
I'm
therapeutic.
actually looking if you're interested.
Hey man, we'll talk about it.
So go ahead and tighten it a little bit more until you can see that it breaks through, like it'll actually cut the pipe.
So why is this water coming out right now?
So air pressure, like differentials.
Okay.
So you know with like a bottle, like a soda bottle, if you turn it upside down, it glugs because the air can't come out quick enough.
Yes.
So you're opening up a space for air to come in now, and so it's relieving all of that water.
Now, I noticed it's not cut exactly in the middle. Right? Like
of the pipe?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're gonna put a fitting on the end of this, then we're gonna work over to this side.
Gotcha.
So it's gonna be enough for a fitting to go on there. Should be good.
Yeah.
See how we're broken through there? Yeah. So now we'll loosen this up, and then if you push that button there, it just releases it. And then we'll do the same thing on this side. See if it clears. So you should be good to clear that all the way around. You can just keep going the same direction now. Yep. That's enough right there. Yep. You want to go all the way through. Go ahead and push it through. There you go. There you go. Two hands down. There you go. Two hand down.
let's go. Easy. Next time our water heater breaks down at the office, I got
watch
this.
this
Look
video.
at that.
And then this
So
is
far,
where,
I charge you $300, guys.
oh man. You can see how it didn't break all the way through, it didn't cut all the way through, but it
Yeah.
was enough for us to just kind of.
So what do you do
break
in
it
that
off.
case? You just
It should be good.
put tape?
Yeah, you can sand it a little bit so you can keep from the from that ridge creating. They say it'll create like a
This is awesome.
echoing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all in the tools. So that's that part for opening the line. I had a valve. Oh, there it is. So then, like I said, we're gonna start by installing a valve. When we're doing this, same thing. We got to sand all this stuff down. With the insides of these, we sand down again, they add layers. They like put a layer on here that'll keep it so that it won't take if you try to solder on it once you try to heat it up. So we use this to scrape it all up, and it just cleans off that other layer on the inside. And then also,
what happens if you don't do this? Like if you skip this step?
Yeah, it won't. Sometimes it won't take. Like I'll show you right now when I solder it, you'll see how it actually like sucks in to where the melting of that solder will let it connect to the material. Otherwise, it just won't take it.
But this, what you're doing, is like very common.
Yeah, you have to do this. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, you should be sanding all your fittings. Sometimes you can get away with not sanding it, but it won't last as long, or you'll find that it starts to seep after some time, and then you start to get like that green and white built up.
And this came with the heater?
No. These are tools that we got. You have to buy separately.
Okay.
And then the valve you have to get separately from the water heater itself.
Okay.
I like to make sure when I install these that the way that the handle turns is going to make sense for the placement of it. So I'm going to put this one.
You knew the size of the pipe before and all that?
I did. Well, I mean, it's all pretty common for residential. But yeah, no, 3/4 is pretty common for a residential water line. But I mean, at this point, I can look at it and I kind of know like roughly what it's going to be. And then when you're soldering, you got to put flux first. Have you ever soldered before? Mm-mm. No? Now I'll show you how to solder and kind of the steps of it. So the way that the application of soldering, it's kind of an old school thing. You don't really see it as much in plumbing anymore. I like the new stuff. Have you guys seen any of those videos of they crimp things on? Like they'll use like this tool with jaws that actually squeeze all the pipe together. They don't solder as much. They use a lot of that stuff. The benefit with a lot of that is you don't use fire, so it's less risky. And so this is a little bit of an old school thing, but so the way that it works is you got to get this to a certain temperature. This is actually on the test if you're going to go get your plumbing test taken care of now. But I think it's like, I know brazing, I think is like 10,000 degrees or something. I can't remember what it is for solder, but it's a lower heating point. So we get this up to a certain temperature, and then it'll allow this to flow into that space there. And then when you take the temperature off and it cools off, it fills in all that you've just sanded away. And one part of it is that the scoring that you do with the sanding brush, the actual brush, it creates a bunch of little lines inside of there. The way that this melts in and fills in, it allows it to create like ridges almost that'll keep it from popping off. So it'll all fit in there, which I'll show you here. Don't touch that. When I'm soldering with the torch, you want to make sure the heating point on a torch is usually going to be where the blue is. That's going to be your hottest point. So you want to get it in that range where it's feeding in the blue to where you want it to hit. Heat rises, right? So we heat from the bottom, it'll warm up the entire thing. And then as soon as it gets hot enough on top, I know that it's going to flow all the way down to the bottom. And so now I know it's hot enough, I can just wipe it in there.
Wow, pretty cool.
And that's, then we'll cool it down. And that'll make it so where we can at least test to see if this is in fact the hot side, so we can figure out how we're actually going to install this. Overheating is an issue. This is where the DIY part of it gets kind of limited, is knowing when to stop, like with the heat.
The soldering?
Yeah, with the temperature. You can overheat it and melt the interior of this. It's actually got plastic inside of it. And so if you melt the interior of that, your valve won't work anymore. And then it's no good.
So you just kind of eyeball it, or based on experience?
Well, as soon as it takes, stop. Yeah, you got to be touching it and ready for it to go, so you're not overheating it.
As soon as it took that,
the solder, the actual solder fell in there, then you don't need to heat it up anymore.
So is it pretty much just melting metal with metal to keep it connected?
Right.
In a sense?
Pretty much, yeah. It's not like welding where you meld two metals together. You're melting one in between two, and it fills in the difference.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So now we'll turn this off so we don't get wet. And then we're gonna turn this water back on.
check for leaks?
Well, I'm gonna, well, for one, we want to make sure this isn't leaking, but I want to see inside. We're gonna go inside and see if the hot water has no water, and if it doesn't, then we know that this is the hot side.
Okay.
and then we can then connect it.
Let's see if it flooded the house.
Let's see if it's flooding your house now. This is where we're coming to check to see if it's hot. If you got hot water on the hot side, which it's looking like that's just overhead. Because if it was full force, it would look like that.
Okay.
So now we know that that hot side is on the left side. So we know we're on the right track.
Sweet.
Which this is just water from overhead that's just draining down. Which I'll leave that open so that it can continue to drain down so that when I'm soldering, it doesn't limit my temperature.
So you know you hit the right end because this flows faster. Okay.
That one's flowing, yeah.
I get it.
Leave that open. So you can imagine soldering in like a wall that's like 2 or 3 inches of space with insulation all around it. It gets real tricky, and I think that's one of the benefits of not having to solder inside of a.
So this is like an easy job.
Outside, oh yeah, I can stand up and I can see and I can breathe, because that stuff, once it starts cooking, it gets pretty.
So when people call, like, what's the wait time for you guys, or how do you handle the surge of? I imagine winter's busier for you guys.
Winter's definitely busier, and we tend to prioritize emergencies. We're kind of, we're emergency service, so.
Oh, your emergency.
For the most part, I mean, that's plumbing in general. If someone doesn't have any running toilets, or they have no hot water and they have babies, we're usually trying to prioritize necessity over a project they're going to start and they want to come get an estimate.
Yeah.
So those are things that we'll prioritize. It's kind of, I feel like it's our responsibility to prioritize those types of things. But yeah, that's how we'll run that part of the operation. Same thing, like everything, you want to sand some stuff.
Yeah.
All the insides just need to get sanded as much as you can. I'm going to put the water heater in place while you're doing that.
Hey, a female brand plumbing company.
I've been saying that. You should.
For real?
Yeah, you should. You really should.
Imagine, Katie.
There's a couple in Phoenix that.
Forget the research. Because girls, especially housewives, feel less intimidated if they're by themselves if a female shows up.
Right.
I just thought of that.
Yeah, but I don't want to be like, it's a girl in a men's industry.
It's not a man's industry.
There's a lot more male.
Do you know how many women I have to sell to, and how much easier it would be for a woman to sell to a woman?
That's
the whole thing. That's what my whole thing is based on.
If you sent Katie to your next female client, what would they say?
If she knew enough about plumbing, it would be like that's what I was going to tell you was there's a company on Phoenix where there's one of the like top salesperson. She's a female. They ended up.
Yeah, I worked for them. Izzy does so well.
She's like, I'm happy with my 1 month off.
No,
okay?
I'm just in general.
Yeah, I got a cushy job, right?
Oh yeah, you can't get 1 month off of it.
But for those that are out there,
well, what if you
there's
just
a space
had,
for it for sure.
like a female rep person, but not a female plumber?
Yeah, that's what she was.
Oh, okay.
She just did sales. She didn't actually do the work.
It's like Izzy.
Let's see.
Izzy
That's
does
easier.
that.
And that's all that. I mean, they just need the comfortability, right, to be able to communicate.
Yeah.
And
I don't think this has ever been cleaner.
There's more. So this is a set of earthquake straps, and because we don't want to get arrested by the mayor, we put these on because it is code.
Mayor Doug, don't worry, we got you.
All this does is keep it from toppling over if we get some ground shaking stuff. And they're just metal bands.
Happens every now and then here.
Every once in a while.
So how do you decide? Because the landlord of our current building is a plumber, and they have two vans, an excavator. I don't know what else. They have other equipment. Like, how do you decide when you need to buy like another van or?
Oh man, I don't know. I'm brand new. Yeah, I don't know. I think as you anticipate growth, I think that doing your homework and working toward that. I mean, the way we've done it is honestly just we get it and then we make it happen. You just kind of hope for the best, but not be too overeager.
Once you feel like you have enough work, or is it hard to pass that test?
I didn't think it was hard. No, there's 2 parts to it. There's a business part and there's the technical part. And honestly, it's funny because I've always done residential work, and with the residential work, a lot of the stuff that was on that test wasn't anything I've ever done. Like they ask you, What type of, if you're in certain amount of rainfall area, what size gutters should you install in a commercial building? Yeah, I don't know. That's not anything that I've ever done. There's so many different types of plumbing that, yeah, it's not difficult if you study. The place that I went to, they gave us a study guide and everything. So it was just a matter of studying, really. Again, this is not like, you're not strapping it to the wall or anything. It's really just meant to keep it from falling over in case there is an earthquake big enough to move it. You mind helping me with that? You want to hold that one for me? If I can get you to, yeah, there you go. If you want to help me on this side, I can hold this open. So with these, all they're gonna do is they're gonna strap into here.
Okay.
You gotta get them in there. See how that sits? And then the same thing on the other side. So you're gonna fit this side in first. There you go, just like that. Yep, just like that. And then it'll line up with that other one. And then go ahead and hold it. Go ahead and keep yours so I don't lose that one because I'll lose it. So then this one will go in here. I'll give that to you.
Okay.
The washer goes first.
Work.
This one?
Yep. And then you're gonna put that on there. Just go ahead and get that screwed on. All right, I'm gonna let go now. If you wanna squeeze it, and then as you get it hand tight, and then just put it in there. You wanna hold the bowl, there you go. Just, yeah, you keep it, there you go.
Are there female plumbers? Like
there are
plumbers?
some, yeah, there's some out there. I don't see too many in service. I've seen most of the female plumbers that I've
That'd be good branding, like pink fans and stuff.
It's out there. There's some of it out. There's actually a pink. I drove to Wisconsin one time. My daughter was living out there, and I drove out there and I saw a pink. I forgot what it was called, but it was like bright pink.
You might need to make it tighter. I thought you were doing those ones.
I saw you. You're really good at this.
What?
Come on, Katie, we're on the
do
clock.
that side.
There you go.
You do that side. I do this side.
What's happening here? I wasn't paying
This
attention.
part could be a DIY. If you don't have water heater straps on your water heater and you're trying to do this yourself, it's really not that difficult. And especially here in Yuma, it's required. If you're within a certain range of where the earthquake, you want to make sure that the manifold or the manual on your right, make sure that's pulled out, so in case Daniel needs to take it back.
Daniel probably will.
It's crooked. I need another one.
Yuma Clinical Trial will install free water heaters in the community. Katie will be out there every Saturday of every other month. Now that we know how.
That's good to know for us too. I'm just gonna have you guys start doing our installs.
I mean, so far,
looks good.
I don't know. It's not that hard.
It's too bad now. As long as you...
Gotta solder it right. Make sure you don't flood the guy's house. But
There's a lot of little steps.
other than that,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is not too complicated.
What's harder, this or randomizing a patient?
Rando. 100%.
We gotta jump through way too many hoops in our work. But this is like different. It's more therapeutic.
This is on a stage and set up for you to be simple.
It's all nice.
Yeah.
So consider an attic one or 12 a.m. or...
We'll pass on that one. We'll be selective plumbers. Like, nah, we're not doing that one.
Too hard.
That's most plumbers. They're all selective. Sure.
So why are you selective or not yet?
Yeah. I mean, we are in a sense where our main focus is residential.
Right.
Because there's so many different aspects that you can get into.
And you want to do commercial?
We are licensed to do commercial, and I do some, but...
Because the other guys we interviewed were only commercial.
Right.
Westar?
Yeah.
They do occasionally residential, but really it's commercial is what they focus on.
That's the main reason I don't really get into it, is because it's already, like, that's the main thing everyone does here. So I'm going where it's open. Yeah. Where residential is smaller payouts, but if you know what you're doing and if you're willing to do it, then you can work on the consistency of it.
And if you're reasonable, they'll keep having you come back, recommend you.
And it leads into so many other things where it's like we do plumbing, but there are other services that we offer internally that we can offer, or we can even connect with our network that we're really big on, focused on. So it just, there's a lot that we can do with just the plumbing part of it.
Makes sense.
So it's super important that when you're soldering, you try to take out as much of the water as you can, because it'll keep it from, again, getting to the right temperature, and it won't let that solder fill that space if it's not set up the right way. So I'll pinch it a little bit sometimes so that it can hang on. If it's too open, it'll just keep falling down on me when I'm trying to solder.
Oh, I see.
I first learned how to solder doing jewelry in high school, making jewelry.
That's Katie.
That's what I,
Yeah.
I said as we were walking in. I was just like, oh, this looks really familiar to what I was just doing in high school.
Yeah, it's very similar. I mean, you flux it, except for I think that we were using like silver solder, so we were using like little sheets that we would snip off of and set it and let torch it. Yeah,
Exactly what we did.
right.
Wow, you're already halfway there.
Yeah. When we're working with these, I like to make sure that we got the seals in there. So all the little things, like you said, it's tedious. Just gotta make sure all the little stuff is in there. So check that out. Then I'm not tightening these all the way down. I just want to see how close I am to my fitting, and if I can just run these over. So basically I'll install a fitting there and then install a fitting here.
Probably the coolest part's cutting that pipe. I gotta say, that was pretty awesome.
Katie to cut one of those.
I like this one more. It's an auto cut.
Yeah.
So you just get it on there and you spin it and it's half inch and 3/4.
That looks dope.
We have used that one on the ones we did initially.
We could have, yeah.
That was cooler. It looked like you're doing more with
And you can see it easier on the camera.
Yeah, it looks like it requires more effort. So Jaime, what do you like about Yuma compared to Phoenix, where you used to work? You used to service clients there too.
I like the amount of opportunity there is here. I definitely like the time that I'm here. And
Are people friendlier here or in Phoenix?
to me, they're friendlier to me out there
In Phoenix?
because I know more people, but I know how to how to operate out there. I feel like the people have been very, very nice to me here, but it's been a transition. It's definitely been an adjustment to get to know how to communicate with everyone the way they communicate out here.
Yeah.
It's just different. I don't know how to like explain it, but it just feels a little different.
A slower pace.
It's slower, but I almost feel like they look a little bit deeper maybe. They have a little bit more of an expectation for the deeper part of it.
It's philosophical.
Yeah, well, that's Yuma's
Plumbing and philosophy. I think that's a good video, actually.
philosophy.
How do they look deeper? Like, what are they?
Like they care about what you give back to the community. I mean, I've only been in the business for 4 years, and 2.5 of them have been spent here.
Yeah.
And the time that I've spent here in business and got to know the other business owners in the area, it's super important to them. I mean, I know it's a big Yuma like requirement. If you're a part of the Yuma community, you have to feed the community.
Yeah.
And I don't remember as an employee ever really feeling that where I grew up. I don't know, not to say that it's not there, but I don't remember it being like such an important conversation that is definitely had a lot here.
Would you say it's more personal here than up in Phoenix, or no?
I would definitely, absolutely more personal. I think because it's so much smaller, like you can't not be personal. There's so fewer people that you have to be, like you got to filter a little bit just to make sure that you're aligned with the people you're spending time with.
Yeah.
We're out there, it feels infinite. I grew up in Mesa, and it went from being this small town to like over 1 million people just in Mesa. And I don't run into anybody I know, and I grew up there.
I know what you mean. Here it's a different pace from LA, Orange County. Everyone's in their own world. You could be rude if you want and get away with it, and here you really can't.
Customer service is a big thing that I think is different from here to there too.
Yeah, it's better here, no?
I think it's better over there because of the competition.
More competition.
Yeah, competition makes you better.
That's true. Like for repair people, like service workers and repair people, I feel like because there's not enough competition here, you guys, not you, but you guys tend to like show up when you want to a job. Because I have noticed that in Yuma as well.
That was a big selling point when I was deciding to move here.
Yeah.
Was
just being more professional.
Just showing up. Yeah.
Just showing up's half the. That's so true. Because when we moved here, it was 2021. it was the labor shortage, right? Supply shortage, labor shortage, and we were doing our backyard. And just to get we had like 10 different contractors. Just the ones that showed up, like half of them said they would show up and didn't. So then if you just showed up, you basically got hired.
That's
Whereas
it right
in
there.
other cities, they would have all showed up like right on time, early. They would have been bugging you afterwards, like, are you gonna hire me?
Yep.
And here it's like just like whatever, laid back. But they are friendlier than they are in bigger cities. And you kind of like, after you get mad as a customer, you initially get mad like, why you show up whenever you want? Then you start talking to them, and you're like, it's just different out here, you know, everyone's just more chill.
Yeah, definitely more chill.
And then you start thinking something's wrong with you. And you're like, I'll just leave them alone.
Not me.
I don't know. I've had one bad customer service with
With Jaime?
It's a different service. And they did have they were super nice when I talked to them, but they did have that laid back.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't show up when they were supposed to show up.
Nope.
Didn't return phone calls. And
Phone calls was a big thing that we used to get. They're like,
So then
we're
it's very
surprised
easy
you
to
guys
be
answered.
successful here then. You just show up and...
It's at this point, I feel like it's just a matter of letting it run.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
waiting for it to grow. And that's a big part of what I've had to learn is like, just be patient. There's nothing else you can do. I mean, you're already doing more than a good amount out there.
I think competition's good. Like as Yuma gets bigger, you
Yeah.
have competition. Because even with us, before we came out here, the hospital was the only one doing research. And I'm sure they're aware of us, and now there's more research options in town. So they've got to step their game up too, and competition's generally good.
Yeah,
It creates a market where everyone's more efficient.
I think it's better for the consumer too. I mean,
Yeah.
that's really the main thing is we want to make everything better for them. That was a big thing that we were telling, because we got into a bunch of like multiple business networks, and that was our main thing, was we were finding that trades could be better. Like it wasn't that they were terrible, but they could be better, and that's what we wanted to do, was make that type of an impact. Not only does it make it better for the consumer, but for the employer part of it, if I can find guys that require more and are willing to do more, because they're not only do they have the work, but there's competition to say this company will do more for me as an employee, then it just raises the bar for everyone, and that type of impact will make Yuma a whole other place.
Just builds the ecosystem in general, and get into some philosophy on plumbing.
Yeah. Well, you get a lot of time to think when you're just sanding, right?
Do you ever just listen to audiobooks or music when you work?
Absolutely.
If you're not podcasting yet?
Absolutely.
You should podcast every single job you do.
Think so?
Yeah.
Seems like a lot. Yeah, there's only so much plumbing you can go over, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it boils down to like customer service. You know, it gets pretty deep, because here I feel like what we've discussed is like service providers in Yuma basically just show up and do it, but there's no like real customer service. They'll show up when they feel like it, and you know, especially during the supply shortage, I haven't hired a service provider in a while, thank God, but they would just show up whenever they want. Electrician, I mean, you'd be like at their mercy.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. That part of it is, because it really is that when you get in some of those conversations, some people really do feel that way. Like, we'll get there when we do, because...
Well, I encourage more people that are working for other people that think they can do a good job in Yuma. The market's wide open.
It is.
Do something on your own.
Yeah, I agree. Especially as a
Don't get any
tradesperson.
ideas, Katie. You gotta still work with clinical research. Clinical research is not that big, but plumbing? Look how many houses on this street.
And they only last for so long, right? Then you make the repair, and then it's another.
Yeah.
It's just this constant drop off, because eventually it's gonna need you again. My biggest issue is finding team workers or teammates that want to be on a team now too. Especially here, you got a lot more independent guys.
Everyone wants to go on their own.
Yeah.
That's the challenge for you guys then.
Definitely one of the challenges that I'm dealing with right now, besides trying to find my solder. I just had it. There it is.
So a job like this,
Yes.
if you didn't have to slow down and talk and all that, it'd be like, what, half an hour to put a...
No.
No?
Because I mean, well, like just like this, where we're just placing it.
Yeah.
I would say less than an hour, definitely. I've done them pretty quick, but half an hour is that's pretty quick. That's really quick. Maybe 45 minutes. But I mean, there's been times where you can even get like drain down a water heater and everything in that amount of time. But typical is about an hour to 2 hours.
Yeah.
Some guys will take up to 3 hours depending on what type of install and where it is. Gas water heaters tend to take little bit longer, like an extra 30 minutes, 40 minutes.
You guys service these things?
Yeah, we'll do a maintenance.
Okay.
We have a service plan that we offer that.
Oh, you do have one. Okay.
Yeah, that has us come out biannually.
Yep, I have that for my water heater in Anaheim.
Yeah. So we come out, do an inspection, and offer the anode if it's like every 2 years, we'll offer to replace the anode on it.
Yeah, they do that and the furnace.
Oh, all together?
Yeah.
Same company does
Same
all
company.
like HVAC and
Yeah.
plumbing? Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty common now. I feel like a lot of people are starting to do that. Starting to add
Like
services.
a subscription?
Subscriptions
Yeah.
and multiple services just because.
Yeah, because if you're the homeowner, you just don't need to worry about it. You
Yeah.
know, it's on auto pay, and I feel like that's the business model now for everything.
Auto pay, yep. So we're all connected. So this is,
Okay.
I always, as soon as I can pressurize the water heater, I want to pressurize it as soon as I can so that it gives it as much opportunity to fail while I'm here. And then I can take care of it. So
right.
I don't think I tightened these. So now we'll close the valve. And when you turn these supplies back on, you got to make sure to let it creep on so that way it doesn't have this jolt on the material. That way it kind of eases into it. Try to be gentle with it. Same thing, you don't want to put too much pressure on it too quick on a closed system, so this way it's flowing through, and then once it builds up, then we'll go turn that off. It's like starts spraying out air, it's just going to be like gushing air. It's pretty, I think it's pretty, people are always like freaking out, like
From the faucet?
from the faucet, all the air that's in here is going to come out of that faucet, and so it's going from this big container down to this 2 gallon per minute thing, and it just starts.
So it looks like there's a hook right there.
You're talking here? Oh, so
It's just a bolt.
this is an option. If like, let's say you're, because these have to have a downslope to them, and so if this is too high to have a downslope, or this is too high, or I'm sorry, too low, you can make it higher so it'll drop down. So if the pipe is coming out of the wall right here, you can't put it lower and go up to it.
Oh, I see.
So this will make it so you can put it up there. Or if the space is limited, it just gives you some options.
Ah, I see.
Yeah. So you take that off, put the valve there, and then put the cap in here. Do you really feel like you could do this now? No?
Yeah.
Maybe
connections.
If I watch the video.
Yeah, just step by
mean-
step.
Watch the video. Yeah.
Because I'm trying to like you're saying, like coming up with things to talk about, and
I mean, I'd probably screw it up, but like, yeah, I think in theory I can do it.
shark bites even. Shark bites work. The little stab fittings.
Yeah?
You know what shark bites are?
Oh,
Shark bites are like, you know how the finger locking toys used to work?
yeah.
The same thing that just goes right over the pipe. I think I might actually. Here we are. This is a shark bite,
Ah, okay.
which is not, we only use those for temporary repairs.
Yeah.
Some homeowners will use it as their option for soldering or for crimping if you don't have the tools to do those other
Instead
things.
of soldering, you would...
So let me show you actually. So instead of soldering, these on the inside here, there's teeth,
Yeah.
and it's like one way. So that way the pipe goes into it, and then there's an O-ring inside there that creates that seal, and that's it. It seals up. So it's an alternative for like a homeowner that wants to DIY or something.
Yeah.
They could use that. So a lot of people do it, but they don't last forever. We don't tend to use them.
But that was connected before, no? Or...
No, that was just in my box there.
Oh, okay.
What an option.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot of different options. I mean, people should learn how to do more of this stuff
Right.
on their own, I think. And then there's those people that still wouldn't want to.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So you're gonna get a different junction box? Okay.
Would you know how to do this now?
Yeah.
Now you know how to do this.
Oh yeah.
Well, he's gonna study the footage, I think, and start.
You didn't know how before?
I had an idea.
This is not that hard.
The soldering is crazy.
It's just prepping. I mean, it's really not that hard. Yeah, it's not that. It's just one of those like sensory things. Like you just got to have enough of the sensory part of it, and it's super easy. But yeah, that's it pretty much until you get the electrical hooked up.
So Jaime, thank you, man. Another successful client, satisfied customer. Glad we can help. If people want to reach out to you, where can they get a hold of you?
They can find us pretty much anywhere on social media, any of the platforms. Google, if you just Google plumber in the Yuma area, we should pop up at the top. And then our number is 928-316-6555. And our website is sunflowerplumbingllc.com.
Nice. And if you're interested in the paid clinical trials, if you're in Yuma or the surrounding areas, we have dermatology, respiratory, psychiatric, weight loss. What else am I missing? COPD,
asthma, pretty much anything and everything, we've got it.
Just message, call or text Katie at
760-618-6184.
Thank you very much for watching, and thank you again, Jaime.
Awesome. Thank you.